Hello and welcome back to another episode of your favourite educational podcast. In today's episode, we'll be reminiscing on all the trends that shaped 2025 to be the historical fashion era it was. In the spirit of popular YouTube culture and to pay homage to your favourite audio listening platform, I decided to do a tier ranking list and name this video 2025 Wrapped. I was actually contemplating when the best time to put this video out would be, and realistically I think the best time would be in that liminal space between Christmas ending and the new year beginning. However, whilst this might temporally be a good idea, you will have seen everything there is to see by then, and we'll all be bored of it, including me. To be more business friendly, I thought, why not do this video now? So watch this video now, and you won't have to watch anyone else's. You also won't need to watch anyone else's because obviously mine will be the first and mine will be the best. So okay, so first things first, the tier list. I often see people think of cute little names for their tiers. If I were to do that, I would forget what I'd called them and you would forget what they mean. Because they're always rather abstract, aren't they? I think it's a stupid idea. I think that's a stupid idea because no one will know, myself included, what anyone's talking about. So the whole endeavour will be as useless as putting S at the top of a alphabetically ordered system, which is also a stupid idea. So we'll be using none of those, and instead we will be using the following. I should hope it needs no explanation, but in case you cannot read, the tiers are very good, good, okay, bad, and very bad. The handy traffic light system will help you out if you are struggling. Everything included or excluded from this video was intentional, everything is a business decision, and I'm always right. No further disclaimer needed. So, trends significant enough to fit my list are as follows. Number 1, tattoos being uncool. An interesting discourse on social media where people were wanting to remove their tattoos, in no doubt in correlation with the clean aesthetic and the popularity of the clean aesthetic.
I've been wanting to get covered in tattoos since I was like 14, and now I'm like, I just want to get everything off. I want to like get everything lasered off. I'm kind of cooked because like I'm fully covered. This is like impossible to laser all off. This is like I'm done for. I'm done. I just want to be a clean guy.
I feel like it was cool in 2010, 2013 when I got all mine done. And it's not cool anymore, and they look horrible.
And I thought what the most interesting thing about this was that it was not people hating their tattoos specifically. It was more people hating being tattooed. And I thought this was interesting because I think that this is solely an opinion that comes from the standpoint of someone who was never meant to be tattooed in the first place. And I think that is what made this trend so interesting, actually. The trend was people wanting to get rid of tattoos, or expressing a desire to get rid of their tattoos. But I think that the same people expressing this desire to get rid of tattoos were probably the same people expressing a desire to get tattoos when they were cool, or when the clean aesthetic dies out and we get sick of it, as all trends do, as is the cyclical nature of fashion trends. They will want to get tattoos once again after paying thousands of pounds for laser tattoo removal, which is a pointless endeavour, and also a waste of money. It's not just pointless, it's actively bad. I think that the trouble with the people in this trend, and what the core of this trend was that people are not getting meaningful tattoos, and not just in the sense that a tattoo has to be some reflection of a historical life event that means a lot to that person. I think it's valid enough to have a tattoo tattooed to be a piece of art. Art is art, it doesn't have to have a meaning necessarily, and I think it's interesting enough by itself to not have a meaning. However, in the people who are getting tattoos that want them removed, getting a tattoo lacks meaning. Whereas a non-trendy tattoo holder on someone like that, a tattoo that they dislike will just be part of the architecture. It will remain always as a reflection of what was liked at that exact point in time. And despite disliking it, the concept will be liked, and so they will still want the tattoo, if you know what I mean. Whereas the people in this trend were getting tattoos as part of a get 6 tattoos for the price of 5 Instagram flash deal of a tiger and a scorpion, you know? The tattoo didn't mean anything itself, and neither did the process of getting a tattoo. So obviously when tattoos just aren't cool anymore, or when that trend dies, you're not going to want them anymore because you don't want to be tattooed. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not even, like maybe you even still like the picture, but you don't want to be tattooed anymore, if you know what I mean. And I think that people getting tattoos for the right reason don't feel like that. Correct me if I'm wrong if you are a tattooed person, but I think that the interesting nuance in this discussion was the discourse didn't apply to people who were meant to be tattooed, which, you know, how can you say people are meant to be tattooed? But it was very focused on a very specific group of tattooed people who did not belong in a tattooed body to begin with, I believe, shown by a trend dying out and them wanting to remove a tattoo. You know, the evidence speaks for itself. This is not just me shitting on tattooed people or shitting on patchwork tattoos. There's cultural evidence for it. And yes, as such, I think this is a very bad trend. No, you know what? Calm down. I need to stop being so dramatic because actually I don't care enough about it to put it in very bad. I want to maintain the semiotic severity of very bad for something I care about. I have no visceral reaction to this, and as such I will put this in bad. I've changed my mind. I will put this in bad. This was a bad trend. Okay, next. Next trend is the personal style discourse, and more specifically the uniform trend. It was interesting that most of the discourse was actually on a uniform being the opposite of personal style. I think right now, currently, we've stopped using the words personal style. I think the phrase personal style was a trend in itself. It came alongside people talking about uniforms and, you know, whether we should just all dress the same every day. By every account of it, people were saying this was cognitive load theory without naming the concept. So Steve Jobs wore a uniform. He didn't want to waste energy on thinking about what to wear when he could expend it on more important things. But that was the concept of why a uniform was useful, I guess. There was also the personal style discourse where people were saying personal style is dead and people are moving towards uniforms. I want to say that actually, is the uniform not the epitome of personal style? An outfit so recognizable and so connected to yourself that you choose to wear it every day. To me, that is personal style. And I think that both ran through 2025. You had the personal style rhetoric where everyone wanted to be individual and unique, and so everyone was going a bit too over the top with it, and it became a bit fake, and it became trying to be too individual, and it looked a bit odd. But then there was also the flipped narrative of that, where people were experiencing, I think people called it personal style fatigue or trend fatigue or whatever, I'm not very sure, where people then adopted a uniform. And I really like the idea of a uniform. I wish I could do it, to be honest. But I don't think I could because fashion is my only hobby. I have nothing else to expend energy on other than my clothes, so don't need my life to be any more miserable than it already is. This was a good trend. I liked it. Good. Next, we have the performative male. I guess there's actually two ways of thinking about this list. There's whether you like or dislike the trend itself, or whether you like or dislike talking about it, because actually this was something I enjoyed. However, if I'm ranking these in terms of what the actual trend represents, this was a bad trend. Generally a bad trend. I think that the only good thing about this trend was that it encouraged reading. However, performatively, I think it doesn't really matter. I think if you're encouraging literary consumption, that can only be a good thing, objectively. Consuming literature, no matter how performative it may be, is better than not being able to read. But that's where the good things end, I think. Matcha, I can't say that I dislike it because I've never tried it. However, I have no will in the world to try it. That is just not on my list of priorities. My opinion is not great enough on it to want to try it. So I don't care. And then the trendy outfit, Labubu, selvage denim, crop top, fashionable shoe rotation, tote bag, is all just a reflection of what's currently trendy for men to wear at the moment. There's nothing special about it. So considering that the only good thing about this trend was, despite it being aesthetically perpetuated, was reading, this is a bad trend, in my opinion. Next, we have Labubus. I think the discernment for this trend was building through Squishmallows, Jellycats, Sunny Angels, that kind of thing. And Labubus was just the final straw. And I'm not really sure if even the Labubu trend was getting Labubus and Labubus being trendy, or if the trend was actually, okay, we've had enough now. Let's give it a rest. I think in general, if you are to look at the trend as a whole, this whole concept of the adultification of collecting toys, I think it's a bad trend because it's pure consumerism. This is the height of consumerism. Buying a blind box, you don't know what it is even going to be. I think toys for children is very different. The relationship between toys and children is very different than the relationship between adults and toys. Because children play with their toys. Adults do not play with their toys. They're put on a shelf to look at. To me, that's pointless. More so with something blind where you don't know what it's going to look like. So I think that's a really bizarre trend.
Which one do you like better? I don't like either of them, I think. Why?
So I think this is bad. But I think generally that's not an unpopular opinion to have. I think that maybe the more interesting discussion was, what was it that made Labubus the final straw? We were all on board with the Squishmallows, we were all on board with the Jellycats, we were all on board with the Sunny Angels. Labubus came along, and suddenly we've all kind of collectively agreed, this is a bit ridiculous now. No one's talked about why Labubus specifically are the end of this trend. Personally, I think all of them are ridiculous. As I say, I don't think this is a particularly groundbreaking opinion to have. Despite this being what I spend 20 hours a day researching, I don't actually have very strong opinions on it. Which is maybe why I'm so miserable. If anyone wants to fund an all expenses paid island hopping trip for me, I can assure you that my feelings towards that are very good. Okay, what's next? The rise and fall of Vibram Five Fingers. I would put this actually in very good, had I not just defined the parameters of very good being an island that I own in the last section. Because honestly, being tanned, rested and alone, there is no comparison between that and a pair of shoes. Nevertheless, I am going to put this in very good because I believe that an island is an outlier, and to be able to meaningfully compare the other data points, we need to exclude this data point. We need to exclude the island to be able to make meaningful comparisons. Do just know that if you're thinking of getting me a Christmas present, I would much prefer an island than a pair of shoes. Okay, so just a brief history of the Vibram Five Finger trend. They rose to popularity following the barefoot running trend, which was believed to be, I guess, orchestrated by the popularity of the best-selling book Born to Run by Christopher McDougall in 2010. However, people realised that this was all just propaganda because, well, I mean, it's not exactly surprising that this was all propaganda, considering we were trying to sell shoes to barefoot runners. But it turned out that there was actually no scientific basis on any of Vibram's claims to be good for your feet for running, or good for your legs, or good for your body. And they actually got caught in a nasty lawsuit over it because they were saying how amazing their shoes were, when really there was nothing special about them at all. And then following that, the Vibram Five Fingers had a bit of a dormant stage. But in 2020, Balenciaga did a collaboration with Vibram Five Fingers, but I think that this was a bit too exclusive for the masses. Too expensive, too high fashion, too impractical to be adopted by anyone, basically. What I believe propagated the trendiness of Vibram Five Fingers in the current trend cycle was the popularity of tabbies. So tabbies traditionally, historically, were worn in Japan, were Japanese attire. The popularity we're currently seeing were probably more the silhouette and wear of the Mason Margiela tabbies, which were first put down the runway in 1988, but themselves were inspired by the Japanese footwear. The reason why I think that the Vibram Five Fingers became popular following the coattails of the popularity of the tabbies was because of this whole everyone seeking individuality and uniqueness. The movement of trends were always moving more extreme in 2025, I felt. People weren't really going the other way. And so how can you get more extreme than a two-toed shoe, a five-toed shoe? You know, people were just seeking the next fashion high. And if you're seeking the next fashion high, there's only one direction you can go in from the tabby, and people did. And that's where they experienced their popularity. However, this was a very short-lived trend, much to my enjoyment, I must say, because I love them. I absolutely adore them and don't think I will ever stop wearing them because I think they're comfy, I think they're quirky, I think they're cute. I thoroughly enjoy. But yes, this reached a peak and immediately fell off, you may say colloquially. The cool girls realised they weren't actually that cool and very quickly stopped wearing them. More for me on Vinted. Next on my list, the Kendall Jenner tank top. This was so unserious. This was what I would affectionately call a vest. This was a Hanes tank top. And if you think Kendall Jenner is wearing a Hanes tank top...
What if I told you that the tank that Kendall Jenner is wearing in this photo is only $2? Kinda can't believe. And it is arguably the perfect white tank. It's actually a little boy's tank and it comes in a pack of 5 for $10. I love the fit of it and how it's a little bit cropped and you can wear a bra with it. It's just exactly what I want in a white tank. I love it.
If these Hanes little boys tanks are as good as everyone says they are, I'm gonna be shocked. Guys, I'm freaking. It's not too cropped. It's like kind of sheer, which I like. I probably wear it like this. Very effortless, but like kind of sexy. And I've also been seeing a lot of people layering tanks, which I think is perfect with this. The summer staple.
Let me introduce you to her billion-dollar empire, also known as the Kardashians. This woman is not wearing a $2 tank top. There's just no way. I refuse to believe it. Where am I ranking this? I guess this was bad. Niche and chic. May I refer you back to my last video where I did a whole 20-minute saga on the topic? But yes, basically in short, I think that these were the fashion buzzwords of 2025. By being used by a certain demographic to refer to things they like, it has, within the fashion space, completely changed meaning. You hear niche and chic so often to refer to the same thing that niche and chic has just become synonymous with things I like. And as a result, everyone has succumbed to using the terms niche and chic to mean things that I like without even really considering what the actual meaning is, because they're so synonymous that people don't really even realize. We just kind of all accepted that we know what each other are talking about when we use these words. So, for example, you see one of these niche chic TikToks.
Here are some niche things that I just find so incredibly chic.
These are very niche things that, in my opinion, make you so cool. Also, these are things I find very chic.
Things that I find incredibly chic. They're gonna be super niche, so some of you might not even think these are chic. These are just things I'm obsessed with.
The concept is so familiar, the trend is so prominent that you know exactly what is going to be shown within the first 2 seconds of watching this video, if you are a fashion person. Only people within the fashion space will find this happens, because it's only people within the fashion space that these kind of videos are being shown to you, because that's how our algorithm works. The algorithm. An algorithm. He, she, it, we, they, Mr. Mrs. algorithm. What am I going in my life? You know that when you see this kind of video, they are all going to be things that follow a certain tone. And I'm not really quite sure what to call. I'm so brainwashed by the terms niche and chic that I would call this the kind of niche chic aesthetic. They all follow the same tone. This is the kind of aesthetic that everyone thinks of when these names are mentioned. It is so unanimous within the fashion space for these words to represent this kind of aesthetic that mentally we create the same picture as each other when these words are mentioned. However, people not within this aesthetic do not. They probably abide by the actual definitions of niche and chic. The average person would probably find these two words to be quite bizarre to be put together, because actually they mean quite the opposite to each other. Niche is something specialized, chic is something trendy. or fashionable. The mental image shared by every fashion person when the terms niche and chic are being used, but being different to someone not in that demographic, is a dangerous concept. If used by the wrong people in the wrong way, this could be dangerous. And if you know what I'm talking about, you might think I'm being a bit dramatic, but may I refer you to the Sydney Sweeney ad, which to be honest could probably make this list by itself. The plausible deniability of the jeans overlap made people say that this was rage bait. The increase in American Eagle sales after the ad kind of works in their favour in two ways. Obviously, first, they are making more money from the ad, which I mean is what marketing is for, but also because it did well, they are able to label it as rage bait.
Sydney Sweeney has very keen.
You see what I did there, right?
I think if this advert didn't do well, the argument would be a lot weaker. But labeling it as rage bait definitely softens the blow of the tone used. Labeling it as rage bait allows them to get away with it. But how would the situation be changed if this advert didn't do well, if this wasn't a good marketing ploy? I'd be interested to see what the rhetoric following that would be, I've got to say. Basically what I'm saying is that niche and chic, the idea of niche and chic representing something that they don't actually represent and maybe only being visible to a certain demographic or being exploited by a certain demographic. I'm trying to use my words carefully here. Maybe that's dangerous. And as such, the niche chic trend is bad. Is very bad, actually. Let's put it in very bad. Okay, next. Authenticity as a trend. This is kind of crap because authenticity, being yourself, objectively is a good thing to be. So it's quite sad that it's been turned into a trend. It has led to people being inauthentically authentic, giving the illusion of authenticity. I mean, it's basically what the performative male trend was. I think that this all just ties into the collective existential feeling of non-identity in two ways. One, towards yourself, because what if you actually like these things? Do you have to pretend that you don't because liking them is performative and only inauthentic people like them? Or you only like them inauthentically? Do you question whether you actually like them? Because apparently these things are only liked inauthentically. But also in others, because you can't know who to trust. How do you know if someone's being authentic if everyone's trying to be authentic? Oh, it's all very confusing. I don't really know what's going on, and I think it's an interesting psychological discussion to have in itself, so I probably will make a video on it by itself, actually, because I think it's quite interesting and it's something that is going on really quite currently. So for the purpose of this video, this is bad. Next, food and fashion marketing. I think this was quite relevant in 2025 in particular more than others. It's always been a thing. There has always been an overlap because ultimately what you eat influences what you look like. But I think in 2025 this was particularly prevalent. Probably also more in part due to skinniness being cool again and thinness being cool again. So it's not exactly surprising, whilst it not being good. It's not surprising. For the reasons of it being tied in with skinny talk and stuff like that, it is bad. And actually I did a whole spiel on this in my perfume video, so if you want to hear the whole discourse on that, go watch that video. What I was trying to say in that video was, although it's a common overlap, it's quite a dangerous overlap to have, because if certain cool things represent a certain food or certain foods represent a certain cool thing in either which way, that would make certain foods uncool as well as making certain trends uncool. So if, for example, the clean aesthetic is cool, you are only cool if you eat cucumbers, matchas, and Erewhon. So if you don't eat that, does that mean you are uncool? With the movement towards, what do they call it, heroin chic, Kate Moss era skinny talk, which I think that the word chic is also quite tied into. It is of my belief that the aesthetic of chic is quite tied into that. Also, this aesthetic is quite tied into the consumption of bad things. Cigarettes, drugs, red wine, Diet Coke, you know that kind of thing. I think this is going to turn out badly, because if those are the cool things to be consuming, does that mean You are uncool if you're consuming anything else, and you are only cool if you consume these things. The Pretty Little Thing rebrand to luxury. Pretty Little Thing is not isolated in this. I think a lot of fast fashion brands are rebranding to luxury because they realize that they cannot compete with Shein to be a cheaper alternative. They just cannot compete with those prices, so they've gone the other way and they're trying to compete with luxury. And they are succeeding in being, a lower price point than a luxury brand. However, the quality of the clothing isn't luxury. Pretty Little Thing is one brand that did it. You can see that they used to sort of be this party girl, neon pink unicorn thing, and now they are very old money, sophisticated, classy, chic type thing. It has all led to a rise in prices because they're now claiming to be luxury, however not rising to the point of actual designer luxury, because that would defeat the purpose of trying to compete with them, because they wouldn't be winning the competition, but still with the lack of quality. We also really quite prevalently saw this in H&M's rebrand and them being at Fashion Week, them having a whole show at Fashion Week, and also the influencer endorsement. They paid off so many influencers and also fashion designers to be a part of the H&M rebrand. To the untrained eye, it is quite believable, which is scary, because to me, it's just H&M with a bit of greenwashing, marketing, and influencer budget. Another part of this is Wisdom K's Miu Miu jacket breaking twice. It's not just fast fashion pretending to be luxury, it's luxury pretending to be luxury. If you haven't seen the video, Wisdom K, he did no more than pick up the jacket and the button fell off in his hand. And I think that was quite embarrassing and quite funny, and I know that he deleted his video only to re-upload it again, which I think that was a good job, actually.
I've never made a video like this, but I went shopping today at Miu Miu, and as I'm sure you guys know, I'm a big Miu Miu fan. And I went in today and I spent a good amount of money. How much money did I spend exactly? $18,000 roonies. I got this vest. This button came off I was about to put it on. The instant I opened it, zipper came off. This one, I unzipped it, I put it on. As soon as I'm trying to zip it up, boom, zipper breaks. The people at Miu Miu have sent me replacement items for the 2 items that broke as soon as I got home. I know I posted that video, and I took it down because we were in discussion like, oh, we'll get you new replacement items or we do a refund. And I was like, I really like the items, so I'll just get new replacement items. So here we have a new vest and we have the new sweater. It's kind of like we're about to put it on, right? Normal. Nothing crazy, just opening up the jacket. There's no way, bro. This is unfucking-believable. That's crazy. Damn.
But yes, the illusion of luxury does not just come from fast fashion, it comes from luxury itself. Everyone is just using polyester now, and I think that this is also true in marketing of recycled polyester, and that supposedly being a good alternative. And I think it's a good alternative to non-recycled polyester. But it's still crap. It's still plastic at the end of the day. It's not actually better quality. It's just recycled bad quality. I think that's everything for this video right now that I can think of off the top of my head. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and Merry Christmas. We still have a couple of weeks to go, thank goodness. I actually really severely dislike Christmas. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please come again soon. Thank you for being here with me. What would you put on your tier list?